Let's take a look at what you can do with 3 fingers on your iPhone screen then. Now again, as with everything else, of course, you've got the single tap. The 3 finger gestures go up to 4, so you can tap once, twice, 3 times or 4 times. You can do a quadruple tap, and then you've got your flicks. So let's take these in order, shall we? The 3 finger single tap will summarize the view of the item summary on your screen. Now this is especially useful in long lists. So if you are, let's say, in a list of emails and you want to know how many are on the screen at a given time, you can use the 3 finger single tap to tell you that. Why would you want to know how many are on the screen at a time, you ask? Well, you can flick through them all one at a time, obviously, that's not a problem. The screen will scroll as you keep flicking. But it might well be that you want to find one quickly, and therefore you need to scroll more than one at a time. So knowing how many there are on the screen at a given point means you know how much you'll have to scroll to get more. More on scrolling in a minute. A 2-finger triple tap. So that's where you tap the screen with 3 fingers twice. You do a double tap with 3 fingers. That will turn your speech on and off. Not just pause the speech once, but it will stop the voice speaking completely. Why would you want to do that? Well, if you've got a braille display and you want to read, then you can turn the voice off, but leave VoiceOver itself running. Or if you're doing something like, I don't know, watching a program or something, and you don't want the voice to keep interrupting you with notifications, yeah, you could turn the voice off. There is a do not disturb option, but people tend to find that they sometimes leave the do not disturb off and use the sounds that apps generate. So for example, if I'm watching a TV show, I might turn the voiceover speech off, but if I'm waiting for a text from my partner, I might leave the do not disturb off in case her sound goes off. So I'm not bombarded by the voices, but the noise the phone makes in the background is still there if it needs to go off and get my attention. So that's a 3-finger double tap. A 3-finger triple tap toggles on and off your screen curtain. Basically, this just makes the screen black. A lot of totally blind people leave their screens off because of the whole privacy angle. There is a persistent rumour that's been going around for years that this saves on your battery life. I'm afraid it doesn't. So if you're keeping your screen completely blacked out for better battery life, it's not going to help very much. But it does mean that people can't peer over your shoulder and see what's going on. So that's the screen curtain. That might also be a reason why when people turn VoiceOver on, your phone goes completely black and they can't use it. So bear that one in mind. And a 4-finger triple tap will copy the last thing VoiceOver said to your phone's clipboard. This is quite useful if you want to share something with somebody, if you've got a joke or a message you want to copy to somebody else. I use it sometimes to email bits to myself from other apps if I need to, and it's also quite handy because it's not just the whole thing either. You can move around parts of text on the phone, which we'll come to using the rotor in a separate video. And so, for example, if someone writes you a text including their number, for example, you can then get VoiceOver to read you that bit. And although in some apps you can tap on numbers to add them to your contacts, in some apps you can't. And so being able to copy and paste it is very helpful. And we'll cover that in a video about the clipboard as well later on. So that's a 4-finger... sorry, no, it's not. It's a 3-finger 4. It's a 3-finger quadruple tap. Bear in mind, all these taps have to be made within 0.2 seconds. So if you are finding that your reaction times are a bit slower or your fingers aren't quite flexible enough, you can change that in the settings. But by default, that is what it's set to. And that's where it goes. In terms of scrolling, we've talked about scrolling before. We've talked about the fact that when you flick left and right, if you're flicking through a long list, the screen will update as you go along. But you must know, of course, that the screen can only show so much at a given time because it's quite small. And so this is where the act of scrolling comes in and moving more content into view. A 3-finger flick up and down will scroll the screen up or down. So if you've got a list that is too long for the screen, you can use 3 fingers to flick upward, and that will slide the screen along to more of the content. If you flick the screen down, it'll pull back to the stuff you've already seen. A 3-finger flick down is also the refresh gesture. So if you're at the top of a list of anything, pretty much, emails, Facebook posts, whatnot, it will refresh and check for new messages or new emails or whatever. Not all apps support the refresh, but a lot of social media apps, a lot of email apps and things do. So, and the reason it's that gesture, of course, is when you've pulled the screen down as far as it will go, you're at the beginning, the doing it again, if you like, tells the phone that you want to check for new updates. So that's why they've used that gesture. Likewise, a three-finger flick left and right will do the same thing, but in the horizontal direction. Most apps tend to scroll up and down rather than side to side, but there are some places where you do use this. So for example, if you're on the home screen and you've got more than one page, this is one of the ways you could get to other pages, a three-finger flick left or right. If you're reading a book, or Kindle, iBooks, etc., this will turn the page. If you're in emails, it will move you to the next or previous message. It's an app gesture that apps can use if they need to, which is quite handy. So that's it's all about scrolling, and it's how a sighted person would scroll, but they just use one finger, whereas we have to use three because our other fingers, gestures are taken up with other things, as you've seen. But I hope that's been useful. I hope you now understand a bit more about your three-finger gestures, and you can put them into practice when you're navigating around your phone screen.